All right. I will say one thing about last week was more simple because I didn't have to worry about X and LinkedIn and where the comments are and whatnot. So maybe if you want to comment, jump over to YouTube, and I'm definitely going to see it. I'm not necessarily going to see it elsewhere. So looks like the chat notification is going out. Couple of things to talk about here. It's been a week. Has it been a week? November is halfway over already. I don't know when that happened. The year has to stop. That would be nice if it just took a breather. Oh man, the year went by too fast. I get on here and I forget all the things that I was going to talk to you about. Let's see. If you're hopping on, say hello, say hi in the chat, etc. Can you hear me? Am I live? I think I am. That's good. I'm definitely live. Let's see here. Get some notes going. I've been all over the place today. In meetings, recordings, learning, testing, trying, playing, all kinds of new things going on here. Oh, I don't like this lighting. My lighting is weird. Let's fix this, shall we? Should we go blue? Oh yeah, there we go. Nice, cool, Ubiquiti looking blue. I do like that. It does look a little bit washed out in this camera, but I like that better than some of the other ones that go red. Ooh, that's way too okay. Oh, yellow is weird also. Gotta play with the white balance levels on my camera here. I think I don't have it set. I think it's set to just set, the not automatic is what I'm trying to say. Manual control on the white light levels. What's that called? Why am I blanking on this? White balance. There we go. Clearly I need more coffee. It is raining today here in sunny, not so sunny, Southern California. Usually it's pretty nice here, pretty much all the time. That's why we live here and pay too much money in taxes, is because it's like really, really nice out and whatnot. That seems to not be the case today. We have I wouldn't say first major rainstorm, but it is the first major rainstorm that we've had that I've been home for, because the last the last three times or so in the last year that it's rained, I've been on the road. So those have been, I guess, my fault that I've been on the road for. Um, but yeah, let's give people another minute or two and then we can get started. I got some stuff to talk about here. The Ubiquiti things. I did the doorbell obviously last week. We've got what else here? Some Apple news ish. Not really. I've been doing some Apple stuff, some googly stuff. I really need to start bolding my topic headers in my notes so that I know what I'm talking about. Some Google AI things to talk about. Gemini Enterprise, Cameo. I don't know. Ubiquiti stuff. So good things coming today. Should be a fun show, a chill show. Not too much of a hardcore schedule or show notes here. I used to do those back when I did the what did I even call it? Shoot, I'm blanking on that too now. More coffee. Send coffee. Definitely need coffee. Back when I did Workspace Recap, every single week we had a actual set of show notes and went through it, and it did make the show flow better, I think. So maybe a little bit more in the way of show notes as opposed to some of these where it's just like everything's flying. But when you have crazy weeks, it's hard to remember to do that. I've got a couple of things going on here. The Elgato stuff I talked about before. I have been all right. Let's just start the show because it's 6 minutes after and I'm just schmoozing. Everybody, welcome back to TABGEEKS Tech for Work. This is my show where I go through all of the latest, biggest business news, if we have time. All the things I've been up to as a technology YouTuber, focusing on the business space and traveling all over the world and getting things shipped to me, sent to me, Ubiquiti sent over some new goodies and stuff. So we'll take a look at that. Yeah, it's been quite a week. It's nice to be heading into the end of the year and knowing that I'm headed towards a vacation and a break and a time where things will slow down a little bit, maybe, please. As I say this, Google is diligently working hard on imminently releasing Gemini 3 and VO4, whatever the hell we're up to, I'm sure, because that's what Google likes to do. December's boring. Let's make it not boring and release all of our new AI models and blow the socks off of everybody. Hopefully, maybe, probably. I'm hearing good things. Talk about that a little bit here. The Twitter sphere, or the X sphere, I guess you could call it now, but that just sounds like a boxing arena. The X sphere. like the X Football League, the Ultimate Football League with The Rock, the X Sphere Football League, right? The X Twitter sphere has been alight recently with talks of Gemini 3. So I guess they have access to it somehow. It is in theory, not in theory, according to what I'm seeing, in testing under a confidential name on the LLM arenas that are out there. As I say this, Elon has just posted that Grok 5 will be coming first in Q1 sometime. So this stuff is moving fast. But essentially, they're saying that it's going to have a lot of big updates in the coding space and the generative space. Um, it's gonna be a big model, and I'm hearing good things about it. I haven't had a chance to play with it yet, but, if I do, I wouldn't be able to tell you about it, I guess. Although plenty of people are talking about it online, through testing those models. So, if you are somebody who knows how to test models, and that is something that you wanna test out, go ahead and check it out on the I think it's on LLM Arena specifically, but that is coming, and so Google's gonna roll it out at some point, and then, Nano Banana 2 or something. That'll probably be in the next couple of weeks. Given Google's release schedule in the last 2 years, we got the big number, release was in December sometime. I think it was mid-December, the last 2 years was Gemini and then Gemini 2, and now we're headed for Gemini 3. We had Gemini 2.5, um, back in the middle of the year there. So kind of a mid-year update and an end-of-year update. But it's been an interesting space. Also, I did something a little crazy. You know that I've been working on my review for the Galaxy XR, but as you can see in my hand here, I'm holding both the Apple Vision Pro and the Galaxy XR. And the reason for this is because I tried really hard not to buy the Apple Vision Pro. I really, really tried not to buy the Vision Pro for the last 2 years since it came out. I really worked hard not to even demo it in the store. I had never tried it because I knew if I tried it, I would buy it. And I'm a googly guy, so of course I bought the Android XR version, and then I went, well, can I really get away with doing a proper review if I don't have both of them? And so I went out and I demoed and then I didn't pay $3,500. I'm not crazy. Stop it, you. I did not do that because that would be a obscene amount of money to spend on something like this. But I bought it used. I got it for $1,900 actually, which is just a little bit more than the Galaxy XR cost me. And I am going to invest $100 in the new headband that they have coming for it. But I have to say, wow, I'm an idiot and I should have bought this sooner. Now, granted, $3,500 is a lot of freaking money. $2,000 for something like this is a lot of freaking money. But if I didn't buy my iPad Pro and instead put the money towards one of these, towards the Vision Pro, the math starts to make a little bit more sense because the Vision Pro can do everything that the iPad Pro can do, except it doesn't have a physical keyboard. It has a hunt and peck in the air keyboard, which granted is really, really good and much better than the Galaxy XR version. Google, you got some work to do on that. Samsung, etc. Um, but as I said a little while ago on the Galaxy side, the video I'm going to do on this is essentially Samsung handicapped the best things about the Galaxy XR. For me anyway, in my opinion, of course. For me, with the Galaxy XR, and everything I've done with Xreal and their glasses as well has always been about can I work in virtual reality, right? I have talked about this many times before. My desktop setup, which yes, I have to show you. Maybe I'll post a picture to Twitter so you can all see what that looks like. Is a 49-inch ultra wide Samsung G9 monitor, the only Samsung product that I regularly use and have and love, as well as a 56-inch 4K TV on top of that, as well as my phone down below. And, I've got screens everywhere. So I like screen real estate. I multitask a lot. No, I'm not coding daily. There are folks who have asked me about, how is it for coding? I can tell you my experience, but I'm not a live in an IDE code all day long kind of a guy. So that I wouldn't be the best to really judge that. But I want to have my desktop. I want to have desktop ultra wide. And with the X-Real glasses, I can do that. The fidelity is not great. The quality is not great. There's still 1080 in each eye, and so it's a little fuzzy. Certainly, both the the Galaxy XR and the Apple Vision Pro are 4K per eye, which is what I want, which is great. Which is also part of the reason why they're so freaking expensive. That being said, with the Apple Vision Pro being in the Apple ecosystem, I can just plug it in, or not plug it in. I can turn it on, put it on my head, turn it on, connect it to my computer, and my screen is in beautiful ultra wide in front of me. And then they took it a step further, and even enabled the ability to have other virtual reality apps and widgets around, which is awesome because I can have my task list out on the wall in space, and I can have the clock and the weather and the, chat from my wife and whatever. Like, I can have all the other things that I normally have on my big screen. Now I can have it on my ultra next to my ultra wide screen in virtual reality also. On the Galaxy XR, again, in the ecosystem, you could use it, but you need a Samsung laptop. Please raise your hand in the chat if you own a Samsung laptop. Anybody? Once upon a time, I did. Back in like Windows 8 days or something, I had a Samsung laptop because I was living in Israel and it was the only thing available that was, decent. And they make good hardware. But nowadays, like, no, I have a Dell XPS. I have, Lenovo. I have a lot of other options that are not Samsung. And Samsung is not an enormous portion of the market. They don't have a significant market share when it comes to Windows laptops. So why would you make it that the only because you want people to buy a Samsung laptop after spending $1,800 on a Samsung headset so that they can work well together? And yes, probably there are apps in which um, you can hack it, right? The virtual desktops, displays, etc. I haven't seen them. I haven't tested them. I've heard of one, $70. So in addition to an $1,800 headset and whatever laptop you currently own, you have to pay $70 for an app to be able to connect you virtualize your desktop so that you can see it in virtual reality on the Galaxy XR. And I'm just like, why? Why would you do that, Samsung? Also, the phone syncing stuff. All right, fine. I get it. There's a lot of you that have Samsung phones, much, much bigger market share. That makes more sense. Fine. You want to have the ability to do that? Great. But it's also a Google product. It's Android XR. Like, I would expect it to work much, much better with the Google suite or ecosystem than it currently does. Now, I'm also a big Google guy, hence Google Developer Expert. Plex over my shoulder, right? I use Google Workspace all day, every day. I use Google Chat, Gmail, Docs, Sheets, Slides, etc. all day long. I'm in Gemini. I'm making a video on Gemini Enterprise. I'll get to that. I'm working through all of this and getting all that set up on this device was a pain in the butt. Half the times it wouldn't even log into the enterprise account or the not even the enterprise. I mean, it's technically enterprise, but it's workspace. It's paid. Fine. I had to go and get a Gmail account just so that I could activate some of the things on here and take advantage of them. Some of the things that they gave away for free with the headset as a buy the headset and we'll give you $1,000 worth of perks. You get, Google One with 2 terabytes of storage and you get, YouTube Premium for free for a year, things like that. I couldn't even activate some of those on Workspace. I had to activate them on a test account, Gmail account that I set up. So, where am I going with all of this? We're so close. We're so close, is where I'm going with all that. With the XField glasses, I plug it into my laptop, I plug it into my iPad, I plug it into my freaking phone, and I can almost have a full desktop display. In a Pixel phone, the desktop, we're getting there. Android, Chrome OS, convergence, it's happening. But with the iPad, I can actually have an ultra wide display in space in front of me. It's great. Um, Plugging into my laptop, I have an ultra wide screen in space. Hey, Sammy's here. With the Vision, I can't keep all these names straight. With the Apple Vision Pro, because it's a Mac product and Apple is really, really good at the whole ecosystem thing, and I do own pretty much everything in the ecosystem, that works really, really well. And it's relatively clear and really solid. And I look forward to the day where it gets even more clear and fidelity goes down even less. And actually, I would love to have a wired in version in case we don't have Wi Fi available, etc. Although, actually, I have to test that. I think that it works even if there's not a Wi Fi network because it's a ad hoc local. I'll get into that. But what the hell, man? For an $1,800 device to only be able to use it with Samsung laptops. All right, that's my rant. That was 15 minutes or 10 minutes probably of me ranting on this. This is going to be a longer video because obviously I have more to say. But yeah, if you own a Samsung laptop, please hit me up online. Let me know. Are you part of that select few that can natively do a virtual desktop with your Samsung Galaxy XR headset? Okay, Gemini Enterprise. This is a beast. I have been working on this video for a couple of weeks. Took me a couple or a week or two just to figure out what the hell it does and how to get into it and all that jazz. In short, Gemini Enterprise is everything that you know and love about Gemini that you have used as a workspace user, but then it turns the full power and strength of the Gemini model onto all of the rest of your data. And this is a GCP product. It is integrated to Workspace, but it's a GCP product. You have to activate it through Google Cloud. You have to go into the Google Cloud admin panel and sign up for it there. You can do a 30-day trial, and it is billed through the GCP billing platform, through your billing account there. It's not billed through Workspace, so it is a whole tier up as far as the offering here. Why they did it that way? Probably because they wanted to give companies and organizations that are using GCP the option to have it turn on all the rest of their data, versus a focus on internal and Workspace, because one of the main powerful things about about Gemini Enterprise is that you can plug it into your data lakes and stores elsewhere. So Salesforce or databases or even Microsoft setups, you are able to use Gemini and all of that data and tap into that data and create, dashboards with that data and show things off and really give everybody a conversational chatbot where you can say, what are the numbers on this? What are we doing with that? How do, take this data and tell me that? It is really powerful. I am diving pretty deep into it, and I'm going to do a getting started with a video talking about that. So that's coming. We have a question here. Safe Catting Gary. I'm sorry I butchered your handle here. Has there been any OTA updates to the Galaxy XR since launch? Up until 2 days ago, no, I haven't checked because I haven't worn it in the last 2 days. But every time I put it on, it's the first thing I do is check to see if there has been an update. I do understand that there is, and I have heard there is newer versions of the firmware to Android XR that Samsung slash Google, I don't know who made the decision, decided they wanted to ship with this particular version of the firmware and let it ride for a little while until people got it and then run an update. Why you would do it that approach, I don't know. Pretty much all of our computers, from Chromebooks to MacBooks to Windows to phones, you turn it on, the first thing it does is an update. We expect it at this point, and that's great. I guess maybe because there's a visual onboarding that has to happen before you can even use the device or know how to use the device or even see properly without it focusing the lenses. But you could build that workflow outside of or before the activation process so that you can get on Wi-Fi and do an update. That being said, even if it's not doing that, release the update. There's lots of us that have it now, and no, there hasn't been an update for it. I will. I'll try and check later. I'll try and remember to check later. It is a little frustrating because as a bleeding edge, cutting edge product, I do expect there to be updates every couple of days or once a week or even at some point in the new cycle here, and I haven't really seen it. Um, Seth wants to know if I've used a Quest 3. No, I mean I have. I tested it out in a conference environment. I was at AWE and Meta had a huge booth there, and I put it on and I tested it out, and it was fantastic. I have not put in any kind of many hours like I'm doing with these. Um, you tell me. Should I get the Quest 3? Should I get the Quest 3S? Does it matter? How's the experience on that? To your comment here, nobody in the YouTube seems to understand that the Galaxy XR, the XR platform itself, is such a drastic copy paste of the Horizon OS system. Um, I'm the last person to talk to in favor of Meta, but it's the truth. I've used the Quest 3, and from the tracking, the window management, it's so similar. Is that still the case? I saw that Meta just did a big visual update to the OS, so maybe everybody copied Meta, or not everybody, maybe Google copied Meta, and then Meta changed their homework at the last second and handed it in here. I'm not sure. I guess I have to. So much money. I'm spending so much money on these. Anybody wants to sponsor me? Please let me know. Maybe I'll set up a Patreon so you can pay me money to buy these devices and answer these questions because, good Lord, is this stuff expensive? Yeah, I have to try it. I do. It's only fair to the ecosystem and to the video that I'm making. And I do have a video coming out. I'm working on all of these, and I think I need to chop it into pieces because this video just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger as I get new headsets and play around with it some more and more and more. So, Safe says, no, that's just for the launcher part. The core system remains the same for Quest. Okay, I will take a look at it. I don't promise to be right now. I'm going to wait for Black Friday. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to wait for Black Friday, and I will grab one. Tell me, should I get the 3S or the 3? Does it matter? I'll wait for you to reply. I'll go into some other topics here. Ubiquiti sent over some toys. I finally have an AI. What is this? AI key. Come on, show on the camera. There we go. AI key. I have never had one of these. So yeah, it's been out a while, but this is the first time I've got one in the studio to start playing around with and testing out and running on the system and learning what it can do. As I understand it, if I remember correctly, what this does is it basically takes your your events in your cameras, and it applies its AI to them, and it will give you the ability to search with natural language, which you can already sort of do, and it will also be able to give you a description of what's happening on the events. And I'm really excited to try that out because I think that is a next level. Um, where AI is going in general, and some of the capabilities of this is going to be available on future cameras. What did I see that somewhere? It was something. It's, one of the other companies was saying that they're doing this kind of processing. Was it Verkada? I don't remember. One of the other companies was saying that they're doing this kind of processing where it's baked in, and they are doing the description. Maybe it was Wise. Oh, no, that's not baked in because all their cameras are like super cheap. I don't remember. But essentially, I'm excited to try this out for that. Safe says get the three. The 3S is lower resolution displays and inferior lenses. Quest 3 all the way. All right. So like I said, Black Friday. I'll wait for it, and I will grab one. Ubiquiti also sent over the NAS Pro 8, and it's over there and it's enormous. So I'm not going to go and pick it up because it's massive and quite heavy. But I will throw that on the rack. I do have the NAS Pro, and I'm gonna do a video migrating. Well, first of all, reviewing, but I have 19 terabytes of data that I now need to migrate from that one to the new one. So I'm not sure how that process is going to work, and I have to take a look at that, and I have to see, you know, if I can just pull the drives and pop them in the new one, and poof, it works. If I want to restore from there and pull the drives, and poof, it works, or if I need to actually have them both live and move the data, which, yikes, that would be a little bit scary and terrifying. Maybe I'll just, yeah, I guess I could move them. I could back up to it and then remove the older one. I don't know. If you've done this, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to be experimenting and playing around with it. Else Also that happened this week is Google had a Chrome event. So if you may remember, there's a product called Cameo, Camayo, and it's a company that Google bought a year ago, 2 years ago, something like that. And the last time around when we were talking about this about a year ago at the last year's Chrome for Enterprise event, it was still relatively new to the system and the ecosystem, and they um, had not really built it into anything Google yet. It was just available as a add-on. Hey, here's how you can stream your applications and have enterprise applications that are meant for Windows or other platforms. You can have them on a Chrome OS device. What they've done now, as I understand it, is they have completely revamped a lot of the infrastructure. So now it runs on all Google architecture, all Google Cloud backend, etc., and it is much more natively built in to be able to work with Chrome OS. And I am working on, maybe in a couple of weeks, getting a demo environment of that, so I'll be able to do a video showing that off and showing what that can do, because I think that that is really the last major hurdle for enterprises to adopt Chrome OS, especially for, end users, like folks that don't need to be on a powerful machine. Front office folks, they don't need necessarily to be running Windows or Mac, but they do need some organizations, especially at the higher end here of like the super mega corps. They still sometimes have, and most of the Google focused ones don't, because anybody who's focusing on Google is usually forward thinking enough to be able to migrate off those applications. But if you do still have those applications, like a lot of these companies do, you're going to be able to run it on a Chromebook, and that's what makes this fantastic. Is because if you've got something like, say, you absolutely need to use a desktop version, a Windows version of Microsoft Word for whatever reason, because or Excel, because somebody has a macro in there that you must run, or custom coded application, whatever it is, you're going to be able to run that on a Chromebook. You're going to be able to manage it from the admin panel. You're going to be able to deploy it with zero touch, if I'm not mistaken, and really just a well designed, phenomenal platform. So good purchase from Google. Safe says Chrome OS is still a school level OS, hard pass for enterprise users. It's just not built in that way. I disagree with you there. I think that there are a lot of users and organizations who can use this, that are in an enterprise, that don't need a much more powerful system, or don't need the systems or don't need the features that you might be looking for. I mean, feel free to post in the comments here, what is it specifically about Chrome OS that doesn't do it for you? I mean, I have run IT departments off of Chrome OS. We've deployed things into the field. It's been fantastic. And sure, there are a bunch of users the C-suite, and sometimes even in the C-suite, they like the Chromebooks. But if you're doing most of your stuff is in a SaaS environment, especially, there's absolutely no reason why you can't have these. You also have the added element of folks that are traveling a lot. Their desktops might be Windows, but their laptops are always Chrome, especially because if something gets destroyed in transit while you're traveling, you sit on it, you leave it in the cab, whatever, you nuke it from the admin panel, you just issue them a new one. They can go to any Best Buy and pick it up, or overnight it on from your supplier. Really, really solid and easy to manage system. So it says, do you think such features can just be used on a browser today? Sheets, Word, etc. Anything resource intensive will not be a good experience. Yeah, I do. I think that for 95% of use cases out there, you can. Chrome as a browser is incredibly powerful. Yes, it does take a lot of juice to make it run, but that's where Chrome OS shines, is because you don't have to run the entire heavy OS that is Windows or is Mac that requires all of the extra hardware in order to run those operating systems and everything else that runs in the background. Chrome OS is a very light system, so you can get away with lesser specs on a Chrome OS device, and it'll still run circles around a lot of the other Windows devices, even if you have 20, 30, 40, 50 tabs open. And I have done this, and um, you know unless you're doing Bloomberg level terminal calculations in Sheets, you're not usually going to run into that. I have some customers that are financial modeling in this, and they're pulling in data from APIs and sources from BigQuery and even not in the Google ecosystem, and they're all pulling into Google Sheets, and they're able to do their calculations and things on their Chromebook, and they swear by it. It took them a really long time to get to that point because they were like, similar to what you're saying, no way in hell are you going to be able to do this type of computer or this type of workflow on a Chromebook. And then it got better and better and better, and Google continued to improve the capabilities of Sheets and Chrome OS, and now you can't get it out of their cold dead hands. So I do think that there, for most people, it is really, really solid. You have another comment here. A lot of people have started using VR headsets like the Vision Pro, Quest headsets, to work off of them through the browser on these devices. And yeah, it's a really good use case that I've seen working. I'm a coder, so lots of Android Studio with emulators. VS Code is so hard pass when it comes to Chrome OS. All right, so VS Code probably isn't optimized for that. Specifically, VS Code could serve to be, and maybe Cameo would work well for that instance. I'm curious how well it would run. In fact, I can probably get um, VS Code set up with that, so I can test that for you and see how that goes. I will say that as far as using a VR headset for the browser inside, the browser on both of these, on the Android XR and on the Apple Vision Pro, is not wonderful. It's a clunky experience. The problem that I have with the Samsung Galaxy XR is when I want to use a keyboard and mouse, it keeps picking up my hands as trying to do motions, even though they're on a keyboard and mouse. I don't have that problem with the Vision Pro, but the browser on both of them is not desktop class. It's not even Chrome OS desktop class. It's about on par with the iPad experience. I would say, meaning it can do most things, but it still gets clunky and weird when certain things are required, like uh, certain applications to run SaaS applications or runtimes that don't exist in the mobile class browser. I definitely haven't felt that it has been a proper sitting at my MacBook Pro desktop browser class experience. Um, Safe. Sorry if I keep butchering your name here. I don't really know how to pronounce this. VS Code still could somehow run. There's a browser version 2, but Android Studio, I don't think so. The emulator alone chokes my 32 gig RTX 3070, and that's where the XR platform needs some maturity, similar to palm rejection issues in early days of Android. Meta has done a good job of this, and a good job on this though. Their handling is a tad bit better. Yeah, no, 100%. When it comes to virtual reality, we are very early. We are in the early days. I mean, sure, we've been in the early days for a long time, but we're moving closer to more general purpose adoption, and the more general purpose adoption will drive much more specific adoption use cases. Up until now, even now, a lot of the use case for virtual reality is enterprises that are building for specific applications. You work at Boeing and you are designing an engine. You work at Ferrari and you're designing a new F1 car. You're working in a factory. You need to be able to visualize these things. You're an architect and you're building a 50-story building, and you need to be able to walk through it while you're designing it. These are specific use cases that are coded to that device, for that experience. And for the most part, once they're done, they take it off, they hang it up, and they walk out. right? They're not That's not their desktop experience, is not what they're using all the time. And for an enterprise that's doing this, sure, $3,500 is a lot of money for the rest of us, but for an enterprise, a lot of the time that's a walk in the park, especially if you have a much better development experience when doing that. That's the reason why all these companies, when go to work for, a technology company, they just buy you a MacBook Pro out of the gate because they don't want you to be delayed or held back by your hardware. They just want it to rock and roll. And if there's something that you need specifically for that, oftentimes you will get that. The software that a lot of the companies are running on enormous development computers from Autodesk and others that are doing 3D CAD, like those programs cost $3,000. So to buy a $3,000 piece of hardware to run some of these programs that make you better at your job is a no-brainer. The problem is that at that price point, it's too high for most general users or small to mid-sized businesses, which is why most people aren't going to get these devices yet. Also, why I love where Xreal is, because Xreal is going, all right, we're not doing right now the majority of all that stuff. We're just doing plug it in. You plug it into your device and you can see it, and it's amazing. It's gorgeous. And some of the devices do have the hand tracking, but they're not at that level yet. Project Aura is coming supposedly at the end of the year. Who knows? Haven't really heard much about that yet. Um, Hopefully soon, maybe Xreal folks. Project Aura is their Android XR version of their glasses, and it gives you, or it's supposed to give you, the experience that you have with the Samsung XR, or sorry, Samsung Galaxy XR headset, but in a glasses form factor. So you're going to have it in a similar head, not headset, but glasses with screens in them that you can put on your face. It's much more lightweight, but a lot of the processing is going to be done in a puck. But I think that's not really much of a problem because both of these devices come with a puck regardless already. So, and nobody has really stated what kind of compute can or cannot be done on these pucks. All I know is that neither of them can be run without the puck, and so it is clearly required. I don't know how much compute is happening there, if any at all, but you can't just plug the USB-C into another power source. You need to plug it into this battery, and I don't know if that's a limitation or if it's doing compute. Like I said, this is still early. We are still young. Now let me catch up on the messages you sent now that I've done that whole rant. I'm curious what other people in the audience think about this type of a show. I've never really done a back and forth conversation like this. I'm having fun. I'm certainly, I can go back to news, but I'm having fun just kind of schmoozing about this stuff. So let's see what you said here while I take a sip. Yes, the problem with general purpose adoption is that 90% of understanding the platform comes only when you actually wear the headset and experience it. Yes, agreed. Um, where was that? With things like Android and iOS, can be added easily via 2D promo videos. Yeah, it's a whole different ballgame when you put on one of these and you're like, oh, that's everything is now possible. Like all kinds of new things and experiences and interfaces are now possible and doable. Um, and Apple's doing a pretty good job at that. They just put out a virtual reality experience where you were on the flight deck of the USS Nimitz aircraft carrier, and they take you through flight operations and jets flying, taking off on a flight deck in front of you, and it's loud and it's you feel like you're there. It was a little bit nauseating at certain camera angles and a little bit too close and personal with the people they were interviewing. So maybe the camera person has to take a step back, but given that they were inside the carrier, maybe they don't have the room to take a step back. But if you have an Apple Vision Pro, go and check that out. That was super cool. They have a couple of other experiences like that as well. And it is a whole different experience than just putting on something like the X-Real glasses, which for the most part is just showing your screen. You're not doing too much full blown, 3D experiences. That being said, 3D is still only sort of 3D, right? Because it's spatial, as Apple likes to say, but in that movie, and it's a movie, it's a 15-minute, whatever they call it, experience. Somebody was holding up a phone or something, and I wanted to see what was behind them. So I like turned my head trying to see around it, and it moved with me. I couldn't see around the phone. So we're not really full 360-degree immersive environments that you can run with AI and what Gemini is doing in, I forget, not Sora. Sora's the open AI one. Sama, I think, SAMA. I don't remember. Whatever Google's open world model that they're building is, you're going to be able to do that because it's going to be, generating all of this on the fly. So if you move your head to see around something, you'll see what's on the other side of it. Where were we here? Hey, Mark, welcome to the stream. Mark asks, what extras or difference do you expect from the next Android XR device from Sony? Is Sony doing one? I haven't seen that Sony is doing one. Hold on. Sony, and I have to check this up right now. Android XR. Sony announced, oh my god, I missed this in January. Sony announced its new Android XR powered headset geared toward creators. Really? It's an XYN headset. So Sony has a lot of background knowledge and experience in building virtual reality headsets. In fact, Sony was one of the very early ones, like back in the 80s, to make the really crappy ones. But that was the best they had at the time. When is this coming? Is it still coming? Is it still a thing? Probably. And God knows what it's going to cost because Sony is like Apple. They like to charge a lot of money for their premium stuff. It's a XYN headset. The announcement comes weeks after Google announces the Android XR software platform. Okay, so 2025 is the year of XR. Thank you, Google, for jumpstarting all of this, it seems. And I will definitely do some more homework into that. I love how I'm becoming an Android XR, or sorry, not Android XR, but a XR augmented virtual, etc. reality channel. This is not my entire focus, but it is definitely a huge focus of mine right now, and I love it. So, what extras or differences do I expect from them? It'd be nice if they, jacked up the quality. If they're going to charge a ton of money for it, like, it's going to be difficult to find how these companies are going to differentiate if they're all running Android XR, right? It's just like running Android on your phone. Samsung put their own skin on it, which I, for the life of me, cannot stand. It just doesn't work with my brain. Their one UI, I don't know. It hurts my brain every time I try and use it. Sony really builds tight hardware, so it's possible that it'll be more of like a helmet, like a more form fitting, something that you can wear for longer periods of time, or maybe it'll be lighter. That'd be interesting because they have a lot of that advanced tech. Sony makes their own displays. I've seen some of their displays at other shows that I was at that are really next level. Um, and I think it'll also likely be tied into some kind of a PlayStation VR experience because that is their other bread and butter device that really, I mean, what did they sell? Like millions on the first day. It was impossible to get a PlayStation 5 for a long time. So I think that will have some elements there. I would imagine also that Sony would build in better control for their own controllers. I know that Samsung has their game controllers, but Sony's probably going to build a handheld controller as well as virtual and augmented reality controllers. The I don't know how else they're going to differentiate from the others that are out there. It's going to be really interesting to see because again, it's all Android, so I'm sure they're going to have a couple of their apps and their own ecosystems layer on there. Please don't make it so that the desktop only works with Sony laptops. Do they still make laptops? I don't just let me use it with Windows and Mac and let me use it with Chrome. Like it's an Android device. Let me use it with an Android phone and show that up on the screen. Oh, that's my rant on there. Saf wants to know, has the head tracking with the extra glasses? Would you recommend it for serious work for virtual screens? I mean, streaming my PC for compute, but having multiple monitors. Yeah. So, um, there's two levels there. If you're sitting at a desk and or on a train or in a car, um, maybe not a car. Moving is hard because physics, as I said in my interview with Ralph, physics are going to physics or physic. When I was on a plane and I was using it in ultra wide mode, in which it was using the 3 degrees, all of a sudden my screen started doing, turning to the side, and so it does get challenging there. The cool thing about that, which is similar to these other headsets, and it actually works really well, much better on the X-Rail headset, is you just tap the button and it recenters and you're there, and it stays pretty well locked in place. The Android XR headset was terrible at that, so don't use the Android XR headset on an airplane yet until they roll out a capability for travel mode, which the Apple Vision Pro has. However, if you're in a waiting room, if you are sitting still, if you're at a desk, if you are in the airport, you want to break out the X-Real glasses. I would say right now for just taking your screen and working in space, that's the best option. Although the Apple Vision Pro, if you're in the Apple ecosystem, is probably the best option. But aside from that, the extra glasses, specifically the One Pro, which I have, is probably the best option for that because it is simply that you plug it into your computer, it's another screen. I actually end up dimming the screen on my laptop when I do that because I find it cumbersome to look down and through the glasses, especially if there's something there. And I usually have the glasses, they're electrochromatic dimming. So I usually have them on the darkest. So I look like a douche and I'm wearing sunglasses inside, but at least people know that I'm, working and not just staring at them while I type madly on my keyboard, which is kind of creepy and weird if you think about it. But other than that, I would say that that is the best for just being able to take your windows and put them up in space in front of you. Now, it doesn't do all of the other things because it's just glasses. There's not even really compute. The only compute that are in these glasses in the XReal 1 Pros is the spatial compute. So where it keeps your screen and how it keeps your screen. There's not even hand tracking. You're not able to like pinch and grab to move the screen around. You do that through the settings where you set up your screen, how far you want it from you, how big you want it to be, whether or not you want it to be widescreen, etc. But once that is set, it's set it and forget it. And it's really simple to just take them off your face or to lift them up for a second because, and this could be a plus or minus depending on how you work, but you don't have the light blockers that you have on the Galaxy XR and on the Apple Vision Pro. And granted, these are removable, as you saw. I just did that. It's magnets, but it's still with these headsets. It's a big thing on your face. With the glasses, they actually kind of do look like sunglasses, and so it's much easier. Somebody, flight attendant, or in an airport, somebody walks over and talks to you. You can just lift them up and you can have a normal conversation. Even just perch them on the top of your head like you would for a regular pair of glasses. They don't sit quite as well because they are a little bit more heavy. That being said, speaking of being heavy, they're much lighter than these headsets. And so for doing it for a longer period of time, I definitely would recommend doing that. Now, the opposite of that is if you want an environment where you can't see anything else and you just want to be immersed, which is kind of the point. Apple Vision Pro with the light blocking has the best that I've experienced of these three, where it's on your face. Now, granted, it gets hot, it gets heavy. The battery life is a problem, so you need to have that plugged into another battery as well. You don't have those problems with Android XR, and if you go and look, with XReal, and if you look on my channel, with the interview that I did with Ralph. Ralph is the head of North American operations for XReal, I believe. He used to be the head of PR, or maybe he's head of global operations. I don't remember. He's in charge. He's not the CEO, but he's up there. Those are the three things he talks about is weight, heat, and cost, and that's what they focus on. And I'm excited to see how they can apply that to the Android XR space because I would love to be able to have the experience of Android XR, but without the bulk. And you have to keep that in mind that if you are doing it without the bulk, that means that you don't have as much light blocking materials. There are other competitors out there like Big Screen Beyond and some of the other Chinese brands that I haven't had a chance to test yet. I haven't tested Big Screen Beyond either. But the reason I bring up Big Screen Beyond is because their headset is tiny. It's like 49 grams or something, and it's meant to be a full immersive light blocking, etc. Supposedly it's very good. I don't really know what it does. I don't even know if it can have the desktop experience that you are looking for there. Let's see. Sony, as far as I know, is doing VR OLED displays for almost all the major VR players. Right. So Sony makes the screens. If Sony's making the screens, then maybe they can make a better product. That was my point there. I still prefer to have pass-through whenever I'm working on any sort of VR headset. I don't find the appeal of having virtual environments when working. I'm okay with not having it. Right. So that's where you're going to run into somewhat of an issue with what I find in if you're working in any kind of a bright environment and wearing the X reels, if you don't have the electrochromatic dimming set to dark, it will get hard to see what's on your screen because they're bright. They're not that bright. With the headsets, you're not looking through like those are actual look through the X reels. And I can hold on. Let me just go grab them 1 second. Have them here on my desk, or I did have them here on my desk somewhere. Where'd they go? I have like 6 of them. All right, not 6 of them, but I have like 2 or 3 of them. I must have dumped it into my backpack, and I think that's in the other room. So forget it. But what was I saying with those? They're sunglasses. They look like sunglasses. I wouldn't recommend wearing them as sunglasses. You can, but they are. At the end of the day, when the electrochromatic dimming is off, you can look through them all the way. And the problem with that is that if you're looking through them all the way, you're not going to see your screen as well. So if you want to be able to have the ability to look through, you're not going to see your screen as well. Now, that being said, they do have, is it them? Yes, they do have the ability, and this is in the XReal 1 Pros. I don't know if the other models have it. When you look away from the area, and it has to be away from the screen. So if you have a screen that's just a square in front of you, if you look to the side, it will dim and you can just look through it. The person doesn't know that you're looking through because they don't see it not dimming. They just see it's, they just see that the glasses are sunglasses. If you have an ultra wide, you have to really look much further to the side or up or down in order to be able to see through it and turn the electrochromatic dimming off because um, what do you call it? Because your screen is that big, but it does have the ability to give you that pass through. Now, comparatively speaking, the pass through on the Android XR and the Galaxy XR headset and the Vision Pro, you literally can have light pass through where you can see the real world. Now, the fidelity isn't that great because it's still using these cameras and we're not there yet, but you can still be in the world that you're in and see somebody walk through the door that is perpendicular to you, etc. For example, um, and it is, even though you're in an immersive environment, you're not immersed. You're just able to see your screen very bright, and that gives you the added element of it can change the brightness of what your screen is showing versus the world around you, so that you can be sure and don't have any external light coming in from the front side, which would make it hard to see your screen. So I still prefer to have pass-through whenever I'm working with an instrument. All right, I answered that question, and I assume this requires the extra puck that they sell as a compute unit. Who's that for? So with the extra glasses, you don't need the extra puck. You just need the one pros. They're 550, I think. And they, I'll throw an affiliate link in the in the chat somewhere. They, again, the only compute that they have is for spatial reasoning, is where you are, where the glasses are in space. You don't need any other compute than that. You plug them into your laptop, into your iPad, and you have your screens there. It just works. The firmware, the OS, all runs on the glasses, and it just shows up as an external screen. And in the case of if you have, they have a little eye module that you can plug into the center bridge that is a little camera. You can actually even plug it in as an external drive and download the pictures that you take from that while you're wearing them. So it's really an affordable way to get into this, and that was my entry point as well into this ecosystem or into this world of these crazy awesome XR devices. Is that you can have the experience, which is what I've been going for with all of these, of having your desktop be virtual up in space, but not having um, all of the rest of the experience and all of the cost that comes with that. Wow, I just ranted for 47 minutes on VR. Cool. Um, is there anything else major that I wanted to talk about this week? Safe says, I'll give Xreal a try. Did you check out the Steam frame? There's so much news going on here. No, I didn't. I mean, I obviously I saw the news. You said that you're waiting for this to upgrade from the Quest 3, but it's rather disappointing comparatively. I think they were waiting for their software to be um oh, good. You subbed. Thank you. I think they were waiting for their software to be done or something in that element to be done, but it wasn't done in time. Like, I think the headset was done well before the software. And if they locked in, yes, I do these weekly. If they locked in the software, or if they locked in the hardware design before the software was done, and that's what they had to go with, that's what they are going with, then they're going to run into a problem. And I would say maybe wait for the next generation. That being said, I'm also not a gamer and I don't operate in the Valve system. The games that I play are mostly on my iPhone and the Nintendo Switch. So shun me now. I know I'm not perfect. It's just never been a huge forte of mine. But I think that they probably have room to grow and that it's going to be an interesting space to watch, and that it is a little bit of a mistake to release the device with those specs that's not even coming out right now. It's coming out next year sometime, so we shall see. They don't have that amount of resources for R&D. Doing good software, Meta has a head start. Yeah, so Meta is pounding away at this. They're spending 10 billion or more a quarter on researching what's happening here. Oh, and there's a whole other element I totally forgot to mention is Snap, right? So Meta has been spending all of this money doing research into this and figuring out what they're going to do. And they've had Project Orion, and they have displays in both of them, and you can have pass through, but it's not, it's not the Quest experience. Then they also have all the Quest stuff. Um, they've been at this a while. They bought Oculus. Oculus was Palmer Luckey. He invented these headsets, basically. I mean, invented modern iterations of them. And they've been doing this since the early days. And so they have a lot of knowledge to work on, and they have a lot of money because Facebook is a money printing machine, similar to how Google Ads is a money printing machine for Google. I guess you could add YouTube to that. What do you call it? That scenario now is that YouTube is also kind of a money printing machine for them. But advertising, that's where the money's at for both of them. So, they both have a ton of money to spend on this and will continue to do so. And it's going to be harder for other players, which is also why I'm so impressed with what Xreal has done on the smaller scale, is because their glasses are really solid. And granted, they're not, phenomenally impressive on the specs scale, but they're also not phenomenally expensive on on the price. Let me just check my calendar, make sure I don't have anything coming up right at the top of the hour. Next week, I think I do. This week, I'm good. But yeah, so to just close out this whole segment here, I'll talk about Snap in a second. You said it shows Meta holds major market share in VR currently, and I think that's where they wanted to be, right? Zuck doesn't want to lose the next platform war. He wasn't there for mobile, and he he does not want to miss whatever's going to be next, whether it's AI or it's VR. He's going to outspend everybody 10 to 1 to get there to make sure that they're a major player. And there's something to that. I think that it's a little bit of a problem that it's Meta because they have trust issues, but you know they can fix those over time. I guess it's going to take time to heal those wounds, but we'll see. You said I doubt anyone is going to overtake them anytime soon. Correct. I mean, Apple maybe, Google maybe. They're selling those devices at a loss just to stay afloat in the market share pool, and that's where this gets even more interesting. Is when you take into account what Meta's doing versus Snap with augmented reality or AR slash whatever it is that they're calling their in-screen displays glasses, because that's not the same as augmented reality. Augmented reality, as I explained the last couple of weeks on the show, is an overlay onto your world. With the Apple Vision Pro, you can have a widget that goes onto the wall and it stays on the wall, and you can walk away from it, you can come back, it's an overlay onto your world, and it's still there. Yeah, Meta needs work on their image, I agree. So it'll stay on the wall and it's still there. With what Meta is doing with the displays is it's just a screen that's in your slight peripheral. It's not even peripheral. It's your lower right hand side of your eye there, and you can turn that on and off, and it is always there. So when you want to look at your messages and you're walking around down the street, it's there. It doesn't show you a little bunny running along the street, or it doesn't have your little widgets up onto the side of you. It's just there. That's where the screen is, as opposed to Project Orion, as well as the coming Snap Spectacles, which I did get a chance to test. Not the new model, the most current model. They haven't officially announced the new consumer version, but it presumably is going to run the same. What those do is you can have a little bunny running along the world in front of you, and you can chase the bunny, and you can play with the bunny, and you can reach out and grab the bunny, and it opens up a whole crazy world of experiences. I think it's going to completely change the museum industry, for example, the tourism industry. You're going to be able to walk around and have a little tour guide, virtual, whether it's cartoon or human looking or animalistic looking or whatever, walking around a museum with you, or walking around ruins, or walking around the Colosseum, wherever you happen to be, and literally teaching you about what is being seen in front of you. Now you have a battery and a training issue. You need to make sure that it has the knowledge. But between AI and battery advancements, or swappable batteries, we're getting there. And so you know you're going to be able to walk around on self-guided tours, or even guided by this virtual thing, and have an excellent in-person experience that you wouldn't be able to have even if you had a tour guide. You're going to be able to do more and look into more and dive into the topics that you actually care about, such as if you walk up to a display, you can look off into space next to it and see more information about whatever it is it's showing you, right? If you're seeing something about, dire wolves, I just went to the La Brea tar pits recently where they have dire wolves shown over there. You can look off into space and learn how they went extinct and now they're cloning them and bringing them back and so on. And like you can go down that rabbit hole because that's something you're interested in, but somebody else walking by may not even remotely be interested in that, and they can look off into, okay, well, who was conquering who was migrating through America at that point, like what states were being formed at that point, like where, not maybe not states, I don't know the timeline there, I'm bad at history, but you can go down your own rabbit hole is kind of where I'm going, and you can play games and interact with other people, and it's a layer on top of the world, which really makes things exciting there. Because, and if you talk to any of the teens today, they hate this. They hate the fact that most people are like this. Your phone up in front of your face, and most people don't have it, that close. But it's a border, it's a boundary between you and the world. And I do think that the future for all of us is definitely a virtual overlay into the world. I hope it's not all of us wearing glasses all the time, because I don't wear glasses all the time. But and in wearing Meta's displays, again, trying to keep all the names straight and seriously needing to go get some coffee. In Meta's displays, that that's not quite it. They're so thick and so much heavier than they need to be that it feels like you're looking through a pane of window glass, like thick windows, like old school. Think, old house quality thick windows. It's painful. Um, it's cool. It's great. It's a great first attempt, and I can't wait for the next ones. But right now, it's too much to wear all the time. Um, okay, that is two is molecular, not very appealing, but breaks into the list. Yeah, no, they've got incredible tech, and I love that the adoption of this is finally happening now, and we're finally getting some real progress on this because for a long time it was very niche and very the tech wasn't there, and it really was not progressing at all. So it's nice to have that. All right, let's get into some other topics if we have other topics here, and then close this out because it's been an hour here. This became just the show about what do you call it? About VR and AR and XR, etc. To be fair, I did put in the title Galaxy VR versus Vision Pro versus X Real. So you got what you came here for, I hope. Gemini 3.0 talked about that. Blue Origin, let's talk about that real quick. That's not quite really, I mean, it is business, but it's not so techy. It's not so tech news, it's techie. Blue Origin landed a rocket on a barge in the dead center, square on the target. Well done. SpaceX, you're not the only ones that can do that anymore. SpaceX crawled, walked, and ran so that Blue Origin could then hopefully run. Weird analogy, I know. Just go with it. They launched a rocket that is massive. It is not quite as large as Starship, but it is pretty big. It's, I think, I would say 85%, 90% the size of Starship. So it's pretty big. Definitely a next generation launch provider here in the making. Well done, Blue Origin, that whole team. Dave Limp, he left Amazon. He was running the devices team over on Amazon, if I remember, over at Amazon, if I remember correctly. And he took over as CEO of Blue Origin. Was it earlier this year? Reed Rocket Dreams. What the hell is Dave? Well, I can't remember. Rocket Dreams was it? I just read this. Yeah, Rocket Dreams by Christian Davenport is Wall Street Journal. Sorry, Washington Post writer Christian Davenport wrote the book called Rocket Dreams. I talked about it when I got it about a month ago. It's not still on the shelf behind me. That's the Rocket Lab book. But that goes into the story of what Blue Origin has been working towards and all of the struggles that they've had and the way that they've built this out and the problems that they've had and have faced and continue to do so. Um, and now they finally got a major win. And I think this is a huge uh, update and win and just success for the space industry. It was very exciting to watch that live. And my son was at school, so I'm going to be saving that for this weekend. But I will be watching that with him because when I said to him, "Guess what happened today?" He says, "Starship." I said, "No, not Starship." He said, "Rocket launch." I said, "Yes." So he's into it. Thank God, he's 8, and I hope he stays into it. And I can share my passions with him for a long time because that is one of the cool things about being a parent. So wanted to put that out there because that was just super cool, and I like sharing when other elements of my interests and personality continue to develop and grow and so on. So what else here? Talked about Apple's Flight Ready is the name of that immersive Vision Pro experience of being a Top Gun pilot with F-18 pilots, etc. Well done. I look forward to seeing more of those. Rumors on the Apple front show that the 2026 Mac lineup is going to be massive. Looks like we're going to have new monitors, probably M5 and M6 models. Looks like Apple is going to enter the fray against Microsoft in their Surface Books as well as Chromebooks. In once again making a low cost MacBook a low cost MacBook and an OLED variant of probably the MacBook Pro because I don't think they're putting OLED in the low cost version. I posted about all of this on X. So if you want to see these in real time, that's where I do all of that, and that helps shape the topics for this show. I already mentioned I'm going to be doing a video on Cameo, but they had a big event talking about that this week. And what else? Is there anything else major that I wanted to bring up here? That I think is pretty much it. We talked about Blue Origin. Um, Speaking of SpaceX and Starlink, um, Amazon's competitor to that, which was called Kuiper. It was spelled Kupier, Kupier, but it was pronounced Kuiper, apparently named after an astronomer, if I'm not mistaken. They renamed the project as they finally get some traction here and now have a really heavy launch vehicle to start launching lots of big rockets, maybe. They renamed the project. Amazon Project Kuiper is now Amazon Leo, which is a super adorable name because A, it's short and easy to remember, and Leo is a really cute name, and B, it stands for lower Earth orbit, which is a really nice nerdy, reference that anybody who's not into space is not really going to understand. So well done there. They didn't need to rename it, but anything that comes with project in the name is not like full blown. Usually, is not full blown productized, and I want this to be a product because A, I want more options, and B, competition is great, and somebody's got to keep SpaceX moving forward. They are plowing through it, but competition is always fantastic. So Mark says, "What's the next XR device that you're looking forward to being announced?" Definitely Project Aura from Xreal. That is their, as I mentioned before, um, their Android XR running device, and it will come with the compute puck, similar to these, that will be running Android XR, and that's going to be running on some next generation Qualcomm chips, as well as I understand it from the announcements that I've heard since. And like I mentioned in the last hour, I am very much excited for that because I want the Android XR experience without the heft and bulk of the headset. Um, Other products that I'm looking at on the horizon here, DJI is apparently like this close to rolling out their next version of their phenomenal pocket camera. The Right now I'm using the Opal C1 to film this because it's a webcam and it works better with Riverside and my broadcast software and stuff. But my number one go-to camera is always the DJI Pocket 3. I also have the Mini. I also have the Action 4. I also have the 360. I don't like any of them as much as I like this. The Pocket 3 is just the convergence of like all of the things I need as a creator in a camera. It's, able to connect to the microphones. It's got a battery, an extra battery on it. It's got a gimbal. It's stabilized. And so the next version is going to likely have um, extra cameras on there. It's going to be Hasselblad branded, I think, as well. And Beyond that, I don't really know. All I know is the second it drops, I am buying that so fast because this is fantastic. I had the Pocket 2, but the screen on the front was too small to be actually useful for anything. And then they more than doubled the screen size and they made it rotate, which is super cool to play with. Um, and It just makes the screen actually usable. And I think it's the same size screen that they have on the action cameras as well, or actually, it's probably a little bit smaller. Um, but those are, I think, the next two major things that I'm looking most forward to. I can't speak anymore. That and obviously all the Ubiquiti stuff, but that's not just XR, nor is the camera, but that's kind of cross product, cross technology. Yeah, Techtember has been massive. Techtober was even more massive. Techtember appears to be a thing because nothing is slowing down here. It's in the middle of November and we're still cranking on full steam. I have so many videos to make, literally a page of bulleted titles, not testing titles, just the titles of the videos I need to make. So expect a whole hell of a lot more coming from me in the next couple of weeks. Coming into the end of the year here, I have an interview I'm doing with Colin from Promevo. Promevo is a sponsor of the channel, so thank you to them for that. And then and I did. They were the sponsor in my doorbell video that I did with Ubiquiti. So there's a link in there if you want to go check that out. And then towards the end of the year here, I am going to be doing a couple of getting started guides. I'm going to rebuild my rack, I think, and then finally take a couple of weeks not to do much of anything and finish out the studio and then do a full studio tour on how this works and what I do and try and wrangle my ADHD rattled brain rattled, whatever, into some form of organization because right now it doesn't exist. And then I'm going to be traveling in January for a couple of weeks. So there won't be any lives during that time in January. And that'll be kind of my time off with the family. I might still schedule videos. I might still put out videos. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that yet, but we shall see. Year's not over. Tech's not over. Tech's not stopping. It's only accelerating. So thank you all for coming along for the ride, and thank you, Seth and Mark, for the conversation in the chat. This is fun. I've never really done one like that before. So yeah, I do this every week, not usually, every week, 1 o'clock on Fridays. Most weeks. Sometimes it's like I'm out of town or too much is going on or whatever. And I look forward to continuing to do this and continuing to grow the channel. So I'm still relatively small. Share with your friends, like, subscribe, all that jazz. So thanks and have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.